from smethod.com.au.
Hey folks, welcome to the 30 Days to Learn Adobe After Effects course. My name is Vincent Nguyen, and today in this lesson we're going to be discussing about RAM previews and how to preview your results in real time within After Effects. In the previous lessons we took a look at the timeline, how to apply effects, how to use keyframes, and how to keyframe animations for effects. So once you have all your stuff animated, it's really nice to see how your work is coming out in real time, and we can preview that. Now previously, as you may have figured out, you are able to kind of scrub through your timeline here and figure out, how is your animation going to look. But when you're scrubbing through the timeline, this is not real time. The speed of your animation is based on how fast you drag or scrub through the timeline. So what if you really wanted to see how the animation is going to look like once you render it out, once you export it and upload it to YouTube or Vimeo? How do you see your animation playing back in real time? So one thing you need to know a little bit about After Effects, at least for at the time being, is that there really is no super fast way to play back what you have in your composition, with quick speed and ease. You're going to need to do something called a RAM preview, which means it's going to, temporarily use the RAM and temporarily render out this animation here so you can see it play back in full time. Now, when you RAM preview, this is not the actual exporting process. This is just pretty much using your RAM to preview out what you have in your composition. That way you can see it play back in real time. So how in the world do we RAM preview something? Well, in the previews panel right here, now if you don't see this panel, you can go to Window and make sure that the preview panel is checked here. So in the preview panel, you can hit the RAM preview button, which is the furthest play button on the right side here. And once you hit RAM preview, you can see the status of your previewing right here, 3 out of 120 frames requested. Now, notice how your composition is changing right here. The preview composition panel right here is changing. And that's showing you the progress of your animation. You can also see the progress down here too with this little green bar. So currently, the green bar is where you're currently previewing right now, and where your RAM is currently previewing the animation here. Now your green bar is going to continue to render out your animation until it reaches the end of the workspace area right here, which we defined, or when it runs out of RAM. Sometimes you may not have enough RAM, so you can't preview all this out. It may just stop at 3 seconds, it may just stop at 5 seconds. It just depends on how much RAM you have and how powerful your PC or your computer is. But currently I am at the full resolution here, and I'm rendering about maybe 1 frame every 2 seconds or so, and I'm at 24 frames out of 120, so this whole 5 seconds here is about 120 frames, and we're currently on the 26th frame. So as you can see, this is taking a while. You can see your progress over here or up here, and this little status indicator here is showing you the progress of the frame, or or how long it's taking to render out the frame here. So approximately 1 or 2 seconds. And as you can see, that the process is very, very lengthy, and it can take a very, very, very long time, especially if you have maybe like a 2-minute composition work or a 3-minute composition work. And keep in mind, this is nothing intensive here. All I have is a background layer, a text layer, and the CC light burst effect. Now granted, this effect is kind of render heavy. So it's been about a minute now, maybe close to 2, and we've only rendered out about 2 seconds of animation here. So, if you want to stop the RAM preview, you can just click away. And as you can see here, it's going to play back what you RAM previewed in real time. This is how it's going to look like when you export it. This is what it's going to look like when you render it out. And this is the real time playback of your animation here. And notice how it starts from 0, or where you start your workspace area, and it renders all the way to the end of the green bar. This green bar indicates how much you've RAM previewed. And it's just going to simultaneously loop around over and over again. And you can change that with this little button right here. So currently the previewing state is set to loop, which means it's going to play to the end of the RAM preview right here, and it's going to loop back and play it over and over again. There are different options that you can switch to. For an example, it's going to play here, and then it's going to continue on, or it's going to play and then stop, and there's just a lot of previewing options that you can choose from by toggling this little button right here. this button here enables sound. So currently this composition does not have any soundtrack or audio files in the composition. So when you RAM preview, you're not going to hear any audio, but you can check this button right here, and then it's going to enable the audio for your RAM preview so you can hear your soundtrack as well as see your animation sync up and such. So before I go, I want to quickly mention about the After Effects preferences. If you're on the PC, I believe it's in the Edit menu up here, but for the Mac, it's in the After Effects and then Preferences. I'm going to go straight to the Memory and Multiprocessing. And this little panel here, this little preference here, is going to affect your previewing time, whether it's exporting time or RAM preview times. And this is where After Effects is going to manage your memory or your RAM. So as you can see here, you can see that I currently have 16 gigabytes of RAM, and I'm leaving 3 gigabytes of RAM for other applications such as maybe Google Chrome or the screen recording application I'm using here. So you want to have a lot of RAM, which is going to help you drastically in your RAM previewing speeds and how much you can RAM preview, and it's just going to help your workflow overall. So you really want to have a lot of RAM. Now, how much RAM should you have installed when using After Effects? I would say the bare minimum, and I mean the very bare minimum, would be 8 gigabytes of RAM. Now I have 16, and that's still not quite a bit. I may upgrade to 32 or maybe even 64 in the future, but I currently have 16 in this build right here. But again, I recommend that you have over 8 gigabytes of RAM. 8 gigabytes of RAM is the bare minimum, and I also recommend having at least 2 gigabytes of RAM per core, and that includes hyper-threading cores, not just physical cores. So if you have 8 total cores, you definitely need at least 16 gigabytes of RAM. If you have 4 total cores, then you really need to have at least at the bare minimum 8 gigabytes of RAM for After Effects, just so that each core has a nice set of memory that you can use to utilize and render things out and preview things out within After Effects. You also have the ability to use multiprocessing if you have a lot of cores here and render multiple frames simultaneously. This is more of the technical side, so I don't want to get into it, but if you're tech savvy enough, you should know how to manage and use this. I just recommend that you at least have maybe 3 or 4 gigabytes left for background stuff or for the CPU, just so you don't run out of memory for other applications beside After Effects. So this has been just a really basic, rough introduction to the RAM preview within After Effects and how you can preview your work within After Effects in real time. So in the next lesson, we're going to be discussing a different type of rendering, which is rendering for final output, or exporting. And this is where we're going to be actually exporting our animation here or our project into a shareable format such as a QuickTime movie format, etc., and how to look at the render queue and such like that. So if you guys have any further questions, don't hesitate to leave me a comment in the forums. I'll get to them as soon as I can. Once again, guys, my name is Vincent Nguyen, and I'll see you guys in the next lesson. Bye, guys.